Hey fellas, this is Collin and you're watching Magic Strawberry. After the embarrassment and backlash of BioWare's last release, Mass Effect Andromeda, they seem to double down on their newest IP, which has caused many to be cautiously optimistic given BioWare's reputation as of late. Their reputation used to speak for itself, but after a series of misfires, I began to question whether or not BioWare was still capable of creating a viable product in their current state. Would their new IP spark a renewed faith in their fanbase, or would their cliff dive continue? This is Anthem. The title refers to an energy source named the Anthem of Creation, which is harnessed on an unnamed planet by relics left behind by an ancient race. Without diving in too much into the story and the lore, these Iron Man-styled exosuits were invented to help humans survive the climate, wildlife, and species that were keeping them as slaves. Many years later, we play as a freelancer who is a mercenary who does small contracts for the locals to try and build trust with the community, who has lost faith in the freelancers after a disaster occurred prior to the main narrative. It's a metaphor. The flying mechanics are solid, that is until your suit overheats, in which case you're forced to jog until you cool down. Flying around is also the best opportunity to observe how lush and beautiful the world is as you fly through the donut holes in some of the rocky terrains and skimming the water's surface to get that rippling effect. The flight controls are superb, but again it's dragged down by the overheat function. The combat is also executed well, and it combines flawlessly with the flight controls as switching back and forth between the two controls is virtually seamless. It's just a shame that despite the good combat, the mission design is rather repetitive and dare I say, lazy. It echoes the missions on Destiny, at least at launch. Every mission consists of you flying to the objective, killing the enemies in the area, or defending an object while holding out against hordes of enemies. Then you fly to another area to do virtually the same thing. Every once in a while there's a boss battle, but otherwise you do this in literally every mission. Unlike in past BioWare games, you cannot choose who your squad mates are. Rather, other players are found by online matchmaking, and they go on the mission with you. Then at the end of every mission you're given a score based on expedition feats, which of course aren't necessarily explained. And you can view the loot that you have earned. Where Anthem fails as a loot-based shooter is that all of your weapons look uniform in design. Items are given stats at random, and power-ups have minimal effect. Considering BioWare is probably banking on this loot system to keep their players intrigued for later releases down the line, I can't say they succeeded in this respect. One thing I can give BioWare credit for at least is that all weapons are earned in-game, while cosmetics can be bought with microtransactions. Speaking of cosmetics, acquiring them is a pain due to a convoluted crafting system, and that buying them with in-game currency is both too costly and impractical. I can only guess that this was done to incentivize people to use their real money just to make their suits look cooler. There's even a merchant in the game named Prospero who gives a whole monologue stressing the importance of cosmetics over all else, suggesting that the look of your suit is the most important part of combat rather than, your weapons. This is hardly subtle on BioWare's part. As to what cosmetic upgrades are immediately made available to us at launch, it's shockingly minimal. Considering Anthem took 6 years to develop, it's downright inexcusable. The hub area named Fort Tarsus that you are brought to after every mission just feels lifeless, and so are the characters who inhabit it. Talking to them just feels like a chore since I felt like I was hearing everyone's life story with every conversation. I must admit that it didn't take more than a few hours before I started skipping the dialogue entirely, and the only reason I kept checking in on the characters was to acquire more missions. We're given dialogue choices, which is a BioWare custom, except we're only ever given 2 options, and they never have an effect on anything. In fact, we're never given a choice of any kind that actually has an effect on the narrative. This is borderline sacrilege for BioWare. Characters are something that is usually BioWare's bread and butter, which is why it's shocking that these characters in particular are done so poorly. We're never introduced to anyone in an organic fashion, we only just find them waiting in the hub area. I can only assume that BioWare wanted to make a cooperative loot-based shooter, but because of their past pedigree, they felt they needed to include a main narrative and single-player experience. Anthem suffers an identity crisis as a result. It just feels unfocused because the online co-op and single-player gameplay doesn't mesh at all whatsoever. Plus, the story isn't nearly investing enough. The entire time I played, there wasn't really a narrative thrust propelling me from one mission to the next. BioWare is supposed to excel at world-building, narrative experiences, and colorful characters, and Anthem fails in all of those respects in favor of being your average third-person shooter. It's basically Destiny except you can fly. There was even a part where I felt like I had literally ran out of quests just to find out there's a series of challenges in free play mode that I thought were optional were actually necessary in order to further myself in the game, which goes to say that your main quests and side missions aren't really distinguished. The free play mode is borderline disastrous considering mission objectives almost never show up on your map, and you can never make waypoints. The loading times are egregious too. Some loading screens take up to 5 minutes sometimes. Again, Anthem took 6 years to make. There are also planned content dumps in the future, sort of like Destiny, the first one being planned for May, a whole 3 months after launch. I'd consider it a miracle if even half its player base sticks around for it. All in all, Anthem is a hollow experience, and the BioWare that I know and love feels like nothing but a distant memory at this point. Anthem succeeds in its flight controls and combat, but fails almost everywhere else. As far as even the general amount of content goes, it's definitely not worth the $60 price tag. Not even close. With Anthem's lazy game and mission design, flat characters and story, broken loot system, and technical issues, this is yet another miss by BioWare. I give Anthem a 4.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching Magic Strawberry. Feel free to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow us on Twitter at ZTV Goofing Off. See ya!